I placed a hidden camera in my bedroom. The footage showed my best friend and my husband secretly meeting while I was away. What I discovered next shattered my entire world and exposed a conspiracy that went deeper than I ever imagined. It all started with the feeling that something was wrong in my own house. Not dramatically wrong, not obviously wrong, just off. Little things that made me question my own memory and sanity. I'd come home from work to find the coffee pot still warm when I was absolutely certain I hadn't made coffee that morning. My favorite ceramic mug, the one with the chip on the handle that I'd had for years, would be in the dishwasher, clean and dry, when I distinctly remembered leaving it dirty in the sink. The thermostat would be set 2 degrees higher than I ever kept it. My bathroom towels would be folded differently than my usual method. Books on my nightstand would be in a different order. My car seat would be adjusted slightly, just enough to feel wrong when I got in. "You're working too hard," my husband Marcus would say when I mentioned these things. 70-hour weeks are making you forgetful. Maybe you should consider cutting back." My best friend Jessica agreed wholeheartedly. "Honey, you're stressed out of your mind. Maybe you should take a vacation. You're starting to worry me with this absent-minded stuff." Jessica had been my closest friend for 8 years. We'd met in a yoga class and bonded over our shared love of hiking and terrible reality TV shows. She'd introduced me to Marcus at her birthday party 5 years ago, insisting we'd be perfect together. She was right. We were engaged within 18 months. Jessica was my maid of honor, the godmother to the children Marcus and I were trying to have, the person I called when I needed advice or just wanted to vent. If anyone would notice something strange in my house, it would be her. But Jessica seemed as concerned as Marcus about my absent-mindedness. She suggested I see a doctor, maybe talk to someone about stress management, or consider medication for anxiety. "You've always been so sharp," she'd say, her voice full of worry. "This isn't like you at all." The breaking point came on a Thursday morning in October. I'd woken up early to work out before my commute, but when I went to my home gym in the basement, everything was wrong. The weight settings on my machines had been changed. The bench press was set to a weight I couldn't even lift. My yoga mat was rolled up differently than how I always left it. I'm particular about these things, always rolling it the same way. Even my water bottle was in a different spot, moved from the shelf where I always kept it to the floor beside the treadmill. I stood there in my workout clothes, staring at equipment that looked like mine but felt completely foreign. The room even smelled different, like someone else's perfume mixed with unfamiliar deodorant. Either I was losing my mind, or someone else had been using my home gym. Someone who was stronger than me, who used different products, who had different habits. That's when I made the decision that changed everything. I ordered a hidden camera online and had it delivered to my office. It was tiny, no bigger than a USB drive, designed to look like a phone charger. The description promised it could record for weeks on a single charge and store hundreds of hours of footage. I placed it on my bedroom dresser where it had a clear view of the entire room and the hallway leading to my home office and the stairs to the basement gym. If someone was coming into my house while I was gone, this camera would catch them. The plan was simple: record what happened in my house while I was at work, and either confirm I was being paranoid or discover what was really going on. I never imagined what I'd actually find. The first day's footage was completely normal. Marcus getting ready for work, brushing his teeth, complaining about his early meeting. He left at 7:30 a.m., exactly when he said he would. The house stayed empty all day until he returned at 6 p.m., just before I got home from work. Nothing unusual. The second day showed the same routine. Marcus left for his job at the accounting firm, grumbling about quarterly reports. The bedroom remained empty all day, capturing only dust motes floating in the afternoon sunlight. He came home in the evening just before I did, looking tired and normal. But on the third day, everything changed. I was reviewing the footage on my laptop that evening while Marcus watched TV downstairs. The timestamp showed 10:15 a.m. Marcus had left for work 2.5 hours earlier, kissing me goodbye and complaining about a difficult client presentation. The bedroom was empty, exactly as we'd left it that morning. Our bed was unmade from where we'd slept, my work clothes from the previous day draped over the chair where I'd left them. Then I saw movement on the screen. Someone was walking down the hallway toward my bedroom, a woman with shoulder-length brown hair, wearing a flowy blouse I didn't recognize, carrying what looked like a coffee cup and a white paper bag that probably contained pastries. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Who was this woman? How had she gotten into my house? We lived in a secure neighborhood, had good locks, an alarm system that was always set. And then she turned toward the camera, and my world stopped spinning. It was Jessica. My best friend Jessica, who was supposed to be at her job at the marketing agency across town, was casually walking through my house at 10:15 on a Wednesday morning, carrying breakfast like she lived there. I watched in stunned silence as she entered my bedroom and set her coffee and pastries on my nightstand. On Marcus's side of the bed, I noticed. She looked around the room with a familiar comfort that made my skin crawl, then walked to my walk-in closet and started going through my clothes like she was shopping. She pulled out dresses, held them up to herself in front of my full-length mirror, even tried on one of my blazers. She went through my jewelry box, trying on my earrings and necklaces, posing for selfies in my bathroom mirror while wearing my accessories. But that wasn't the most shocking part. At 10:32 a.m., I heard the front door open again on the recording. Footsteps coming up the stairs, keys jingling. And then Marcus appeared in the bedroom doorway. Marcus, who was supposed to be in back-to-back client meetings all morning. Marcus, who had kissed me goodbye and complained about his packed schedule. Marcus, who had told me he probably wouldn't even have time for lunch. "Sorry I'm late," he said to Jessica, loosening his tie. The presentation ran over, and then I had to make excuses to leave early. "No problem," Jessica replied, not even looking up from my jewelry box, where she was now trying on my wedding ring. My actual wedding ring that I'd left on the bathroom counter after my shower. I brought those croissants you like from that French place. They embraced. They kissed. Not a friendly kiss, not a casual greeting. A deep, intimate kiss between lovers who were comfortable with each other. In my bedroom, surrounded by my belongings, while I was at work earning the money that paid for the house they were using for their secret meetings, I felt physically sick. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely control the laptop mouse. I fast-forwarded through the rest of the day's footage, my stomach churning with each revelation. They spent hours together, in my bedroom, in my home office, in my kitchen, in my basement gym, which explained why all the equipment settings had been changed. Jessica went through my closet systematically, trying on my clothes, taking pictures of herself in my outfits. She used my expensive skincare products in my bathroom, tested my perfumes, even used my toothbrush, to touch up her lipstick. Marcus showed her papers from his briefcase, and they discussed what sounded like financial documents. At one point, Jessica was on my computer in the home office while Marcus stood behind her, pointing at the screen and explaining something that involved lots of numbers. They ordered Thai food for lunch and ate it in my bed, getting sauce on my expensive white sheets. They used my home gym together, Jessica wearing my workout clothes while Marcus spotted her on the weights. They treated my house like their private couple's retreat. At one particularly painful moment, I watched Jessica model my lingerie for Marcus while he took photos with his phone. She was wearing the expensive set I'd bought for our anniversary last month, the one Marcus had barely seemed to notice when I'd worn it for him. At 4:45 p.m., Jessica left through the front door, taking one of my sweaters with her. At 5:30, Marcus left too, presumably to return to his office so he could come home at his normal time and pretend he'd been working all day. When I got home at 7 p.m., Marcus was in the kitchen making dinner, asking about my day like nothing had happened. He was wearing the same shirt, the same tie, but I could smell Jessica's perfume on him now that I knew what to look for. "How was your presentation?" I asked, my voice somehow steady. "Brutal," he said, not meeting my eyes. "Client was really demanding. I barely had time to grab lunch." Every word was a lie. Every single word. I said nothing more. I needed to see how deep this went. The next day's footage showed the same pattern. Marcus left for work. Jessica arrived an hour later with coffee and breakfast. They spent the entire day together in my house, using my belongings, living like a couple in my space. The day after that, the same routine, and the day after that. I went back through weeks of recordings, my horror growing with each passing hour of footage. The pattern was consistent and had been going on for months. Every day I worked late, every day I had early meetings, every day I was out of the house for extended periods. They were there together. They had developed elaborate routines. Jessica would bring different outfits and change clothes in my bedroom so she could wear my things. Marcus had given her copies of my house keys, the alarm code, even the password to my home Wi-Fi network. They'd been using my credit cards. I found evidence of this when I saw Jessica on camera using my laptop to order groceries for delivery, typing in payment information she clearly had memorized. Most disturbing, they had converted my guest bedroom into what looked like their private space. Jessica had brought clothes, toiletries, even photos of them together. They'd essentially moved her in as a secret roommate while I was paying all the bills. The psychological manipulation was systematic and calculated. In one recording from 6 weeks earlier, I watched them practice conversations about my forgetfulness. "You should be more concerned," Marcus was coaching Jessica. "Really emphasize how worried you are about her mental state." "Should I suggest therapy again?" Jessica asked. "Yes, but make it sound like you're just being a caring friend. Maybe mention that you've noticed her making mistakes at work too." They were rehearsing how to gaslight me. They were literally practicing their lies to make them more believable. I found recordings of them going through my financial documents, photographing bank statements, investment portfolios, even my work contracts. They were studying my finances with the thoroughness of professional auditors. The most damaging evidence came from a recording dated 3 months earlier. Jessica and Marcus were in my home office with my laptop open, discussing my assets like they were planning a heist. "The house is worth about $800,000, Marcus was saying, reading from what looked like a real estate assessment. "She's got about $200,000 in retirement savings, plus the joint checking and savings accounts." "What about her inheritance from her grandmother?" Jessica asked, taking notes on my legal pad with my pen. "Another $150,000 in a separate account that she never touches. She thinks of it as emergency money, so she's been really resistant to my suggestions about using it for house improvements." "So if you divorce her?" "In a no-fault state, I'd get half of everything acquired during the marriage. The house, the joint savings, probably alimony since she makes significantly more than me. But not the inheritance? Not unless I can prove it was used for joint expenses. That's why I've been slowly encouraging her to dip into it. Home renovations, that European vacation I suggested, if I can show the inheritance money was commingled with marital assets." They weren't just having an affair, they were planning to financially destroy me. "What if she contests the divorce?" Jessica asked. "What if she fights for more or tries to claim you were unfaithful?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Adultery is hard to prove, and even then it doesn't matter much in most divorce proceedings. But what if we made her look unstable, unreliable, like she couldn't handle her finances or make good decisions?" I felt my blood turn to ice. "The forgetfulness campaign is working perfectly," Marcus continued. "She's already questioning her own memory and judgment. If we keep making her doubt herself, maybe get her to see a therapist who'd document her mental health issues, it could help in court." "And I can back you up completely," Jessica added. "I'm her best friend. If I testify that she's been acting erratic, people will believe me, especially if we can get other friends to notice her strange behavior too." They were plotting to systematically destroy my mental health, steal my assets, and leave me looking like an unstable person who couldn't be trusted with money or major decisions. But there was more. "What about after?" Jessica asked. "What about us?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, how long do we have to wait after the divorce before we can be together publicly? I'm tired of sneaking around." Marcus pulled her closer. "Not long. Maybe 6 months to make it look like we met after my marriage ended. We'll say we bonded over helping me through my difficult divorce. And then we can live here, in this house? If everything goes according to plan, yes. She'll have to sell it to split the assets, but I'll make sure I get first right of refusal. We can buy it at a reduced price and live in the home she spent years paying for." They were planning to steal my house and live in it together. They were going to take everything I'd worked for and use it to build their new life, while painting me as a mentally unstable woman who couldn't handle the stress of marriage. I sat in my office the next day, staring at months of footage showing my husband and best friend betraying me in the most calculated, systematic way possible. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of weakness. This was a long-term conspiracy to destroy my life. But I'm not the type of person who falls apart when betrayed. I'm the type who gets strategic. I spent the next week documenting everything. I copied all the footage to multiple secure drives, encrypted and stored in different locations. I screenshotted every damaging conversation, every financial discussion, every moment of them using my belongings or planning my destruction. I also started gathering additional evidence. I checked my credit card statements and found charges I hadn't made, groceries delivered to my house on days I wasn't there, restaurant orders, even subscription services I'd never signed up for. They'd been using my credit cards for months. I found bank statements showing small transfers from our joint account to accounts I didn't recognize. When I traced the account numbers, they led back to Jessica. Marcus had been systematically stealing from our joint funds to give money to his mistress. Then I called Margaret Chen, the best divorce attorney in the city. Margaret was known for her ruthless efficiency in destroying unfaithful spouses in court. "I need to see you immediately," I told her. "I have extensive evidence of adultery, financial fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy." When I showed Margaret hours of footage of Marcus and Jessica plotting to steal my assets while conducting their affair in my house, using my credit cards and planning my psychological destruction, her eyes lit up like she'd just discovered buried treasure. "This is the most comprehensive evidence of marital misconduct I've seen in 25 years of practice," she said. "Your husband isn't just going to lose everything, he's going to face criminal charges." Margaret suggested we build an even stronger case. "If they're planning to claim you're mentally unstable, we need to get ahead of that narrative. I want you to see a psychiatrist for a complete psychological evaluation. We'll prove you're completely competent and that any forgetfulness was the result of their deliberate gaslighting." She also recommended we involve law enforcement. "Using your credit cards without permission is identity theft. Moving money from joint accounts to fund an affair could be considered embezzlement. And Jessica has essentially been living in your house without your knowledge, which is trespassing at minimum." I spent the next 2 weeks building an airtight case while continuing to act completely normal at home. Marcus and Jessica had no idea they'd been caught. They continued their routine, meeting in my house, using my belongings, planning my downfall, completely oblivious to the fact that every moment was being recorded. The psychiatric evaluation confirmed what I already knew. I was mentally healthy, with no signs of memory issues, cognitive decline, or psychological instability. The doctor noted that my occasional forgetfulness was likely the result of external stress and possibly systematic psychological manipulation. "In my professional opinion," Dr. Sarah Williams wrote in her report, "the patient shows no signs of mental illness or cognitive impairment. Her reported memory issues appear to be situational and likely the result of external factors designed to make her question her own perceptions." Margaret also hired a private investigator to follow Marcus and Jessica when they weren't in my house. The PI discovered they weren't just meeting in my home, they were also going to hotels, taking weekend trips together when they told me they were doing other things, and had been maintaining this double life for over 2 years. Most damaging, the PI found evidence that Marcus had been in contact with divorce attorneys for 6 months, shopping around for someone who would help him maximize his settlement while minimizing mine. He'd been planning this divorce long before I had any idea there was a problem. The PI also discovered that Jessica had been telling people at work that she was in a serious relationship with a married man who was leaving his wife. She'd been bragging about their future plans, showing coworkers photos of my house and talking about how she'd redecorate it once they were living there together. On a Friday evening in December, exactly 3 months after I'd first installed the camera, I was ready to end this charade. Marcus was in the living room watching basketball. Jessica was supposed to come over for our weekly movie night, a tradition we'd maintained throughout their affair, with her sitting in my living room pretending to be my concerned friend while secretly sleeping with my husband and planning to steal my life. When Jessica arrived with a bottle of wine and a bag of popcorn, acting like the devoted friend she'd never actually been, I suggested we all sit down together. "I have something to show you both," I said, opening my laptop on the coffee table. "Something I think you'll find very interesting." I started playing the footage. The first clip showed Jessica entering my bedroom on a Wednesday morning 3 weeks earlier, going through my jewelry box while Marcus watched from my bed, both of them wearing my clothes. The color drained from both their faces simultaneously. "I have months of recordings," I said, my voice calm and steady. "Hundreds of hours of footage showing your affair, your financial fraud, your systematic gaslighting, and your detailed planning to steal my assets and destroy my reputation." Marcus started to speak, but I held up my hand. "I also have evidence of the money you've been transferring to Jessica's accounts, the credit card charges you've been making without my knowledge, and recordings of you discussing your plans to have me declared mentally incompetent so you could control my inheritance." I handed Marcus divorce papers. "You're being served, and Jessica, you're being sued for alienation of affection, identity theft, fraud, and conspiracy. I've also filed criminal complaints against both of you." Jessica started crying, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks. "I never meant for this to happen. It just developed over time. We tried to fight it." 2 years, I said. 2 years of systematic lying, cheating, stealing, and plotting. 2 years of making me think I was losing my mind while you planned to steal my life and live it together. Marcus tried to salvage something, falling back on his legal knowledge. "The house is half mine, the joint accounts, the assets we acquired during marriage. Actually, they're not." I pulled out documents from Margaret. "Given your adultery, financial fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit fraud, you're entitled to nothing. In fact, you owe me substantial restitution for the money you stole and the damages you caused." The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Marcus received nothing. No house, no savings, no alimony, no assets. The judge was particularly harsh, given the extensive evidence of his systematic deception, financial theft, and conspiracy. Jessica's civil lawsuit was settled out of court for a substantial sum. She also faced criminal charges for identity theft and credit card fraud. Her reputation was destroyed when word of the affair and the lawsuit spread through our social circle and her workplace. Marcus lost his job when his employer learned about his theft and deception. Apparently, some of the financial documents he'd been showing Jessica contained confidential client information, which violated his professional ethics obligations and resulted in the loss of his CPA license. Jessica's marketing agency terminated her when they discovered she'd been using sick days, fake appointments, and company time to conduct her affair and plan her crimes. She was forced to move back in with her parents and eventually left the state entirely. I kept the house, kept my job, and kept my sanity. I had the entire house professionally cleaned and redecorated. I wanted no trace of their presence in my home. The hidden camera is still there, though not because I don't trust my current boyfriend. It's there to remind me that when something feels wrong, it probably is. When my instincts tell me to investigate, I should listen to them. For months, I'd ignored the signs that something was happening in my house. I'd let Marcus and Jessica convince me I was forgetful, stressed, paranoid, possibly mentally ill. I'd let them gaslight me into doubting my own perceptions while they used my home, my money, and my trust to fund their affair and plan my destruction. But my instincts were right all along. Every little thing that seemed off was off. I just hadn't known how to interpret the evidence correctly. My house is mine again. My life is mine again. And I sleep peacefully in my bedroom, knowing that the only secrets it holds now are my own. The most important lesson I learned is that the people closest to you can be your greatest enemies. Trust should be earned and verified, not assumed. And when something feels wrong in your own home, in your own life, it's worth investigating, even if everyone tells you you're being paranoid. Because sometimes you're not paranoid. Sometimes you're just paying attention. So, what do you think? Did I handle this betrayal correctly, or should I have confronted them sooner? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more stories about the shocking secrets people hide behind closed doors, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You never know what disturbing truth we'll uncover next.